All right, go ahead and stand up and take a moment just to feel your feet on the floor. Let's check our shoulder mobility a little bit. So, how well do your shoulders rotate outward? So, shoulder mobility has a few things that need to happen well to do it well. Your arm bone rotates, your shoulder blade stabilizes, and also can slide. Your shoulder blade, if your upper back is overly round, can be too high, and that can change the mobility of the arm bone. Certainly old injuries can change that, and also our control mechanisms can change that. So how the nerves are reacting with the arm bones. So do one of these and just give, like, how's the right and left? So how does the rib cage move with the shoulder blade? And just look into this cow's face in yoga. What's your mobility shoulder-wise? And then check the other one. A little bit of scoliosis might impact this. An injury to a shoulder might impact this. Where is the difference between right and left? And you can see for mine, this and this. So we can see after. How is it in your body? We'll test it. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Cara.
All right, so let's start with, go ahead and stand up against the wall. Line up your load joints, heels at the wall, butt to the wall, mid back to the wall, head to the wall. So check your low back for a minute. Check your hips. Now we all have some asymmetries, but some of those asymmetries can come out when we get more aligned. So if a leg bone is turned in, maybe that's because a femur isn't sitting as well as we need it to in the hip socket. Or if a rib cage, one side sticks out more than the other. Just notice where you're at today and what your back muscles are doing. So it's great if we can have kind of get to a place where the back muscles can soften so they're not overly contracted. And sometimes when our posture goes forward, there's over contraction, or this way, then the back muscles never really turn off. But when we're just standing there, it shouldn't be super tight. We should have kind of an equal guy wire all the way around. Feel your shoulder blades on the wall and just notice where they are. Does one stick out more than the other? And then bend your elbows. Find the muscles deep in your elbow and turn your forearm back and forth. So head to the wall, curving your neck, middle back to the wall, butt to the wall. Load joints all stacked, vertical loading, all up and down. Find the muscles deep in the elbow that turn the forearm over. And let's make sure that those muscles, those rotators, are working so that the head of the arm bone can sit in the socket best. The humerus in the glenohumeral joint. Go ahead, take it into wrists, turn your palms up, and just do some circles that way. And reverse. And close that joint from the back side. So fingers all the way down. You can take your elbows to the wall just to give that a reference of where that is. Feel the contraction in your elbow and then drop your shoulder blades into good alignment. Take a full deep breath in your rib cage. Expand the ribs out to the side. Think about a 4-inch expansion between inhalation and exhalation. There's a lot of movement that can happen in the bottom of the rib cage, in the back side of your body. It can give your spine a little bit of a massage with each breath. Good, keep your hands like this. Fingers spread super wide, turn your toes so that they point outward. Some of us have one leg that turns one direction or another and one butt muscle that doesn't activate as well. So find that right now. Turn your toes out, give your butt an advantage by shortening it, and squeeze and release. Sometimes the connection between the shoulder and the hip is why we can't get the shoulder to change. So we might feel pain in the shoulder, but the hip isn't working correctly, and that shoulder is stabilizing for an unstable hip. Squeeze, release. Squeeze, release. Get the glute to pinch. Feel what's happening. The glute goes from the outside of the hip bone to the pelvis. Its role is external rotation of the leg bone, or turning it outward, and hip extension, taking the leg behind you. Fingers still spread really wide, hands down. See if you can get more flexion in the wrist. Good, feet back to straight. And then head, ear toward one shoulder. Take a deep breath, come up over to the other side. Your upper traps might also play a role in trying to stabilize the shoulder. If some of those deeper middle back muscles aren't doing their job. Good. Take your hands so that the palms face each other. Take it into an external rotation at the shoulder. Try to touch your arms all the way back. Full breath in your middle back. Notice if your middle back just got too flat. So if the upper back moved, see if you can put the spine back into really good alignment. Curve in the low back, curve in the middle back, and then get that arm bone, even if the arms come a little bit away from your body, to really rotate all the way at the upper arm bone. And then take a breath. Arms back in, arms back out. Internal and external humeral rotation. Scap stability, mid-back stability, spine stability. Good, now bend the arms, bend the elbows, take your arms up. This time, keep your spine in the same position. See if you can reach your whole shoulder girdle. So let it slide up by your ears, all the way up. Upper traps get to fully activate. Full stretch, get as tall as you possibly can without coming up off your toes. And then elbows coming down. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. Release it. Do that again. All the way up, spine stable. Mid back stable, low back stable. Come all the way up, shoulder blades slide up to your ears. Then break at the elbow. Shoulder blades come down your back. All the way up. All the way down. Couple more. Can really reach that side body long. And come on down. Good, now keep your shoulder blades stable, feel them on the wall. They have to rotate outward, so let them rotate outward as the arms go up, but they don't move a whole lot. So bring your arms up, feel them come toward your armpit, And then we'll do a little bit of like scaption. So the arm moves faster than the shoulder blade rotates. And just bring it down kind of in a diagonal. Good, all the way up. Thumbs to the wall, big Y shape. And then control that move as it comes down. Shoulder blade and arm bone rotating together. I just got an adjustment in my low back, so could move some pieces as we find balance. On these two sides, it could move something somewhere else. Couple more, all the way up. Shoulder blades rotating toward the armpit, arm bones go up. And coming down. Awesome. Okay. Come down onto your hands and knees. We'll stick with shoulders for just a little bit. So first just move your head so that we're kind of flossing the nerves that move down the front of the shoulder, the brachial plexus, or the back of the shoulder. So chin down, head drop. Leave the rest of your spine just stable. And then bring your head up, ears come back over your shoulders, and then lengthen your chin forward, coming into neck extension. Chin tuck, head slide. And then ears over shoulders coming back up. Look up. One more. Chin tuck, head slide. Full range of motion in your neck, moving those nerves. Good. Take your ear towards your shoulder. See if you can even put your ear on your shoulder. And then over to the other side. And if you can't, ask the question, what's stopping me? Is it strength? Is it bone to bone? Is it tightness in the muscles? Where is the place that you can push through to increase mobility, and where do we just say, wow, that's my body telling me it doesn't want to go anymore? What's the combination of our shape, our unique shape, with how our body moves? Go ahead and take it into a big circle. And then the other way. Okay, thread your shoulders now. So shoulder blades coming off your back, round your upper back, just the upper back. Big like a cat. So you're using the muscles on the side of your body, and then sink it down, shoulder blades slide toward the spine. So they get to move over the rib cage, press all the way up, and then come all the way down. Add the breath. And then does that move on one side differently than the other? If you're feeling advanced today, you can just take one hand to the opposite elbow and now do the left side up and down. So that's a lot more load on that left shoulder, but you can move through that. So increasing the demand through that side body, and then switch. Arm bones stable. Keep your torso stable, and then slide that shoulder blade around the rib cage and off. Good. Both hands down, take it into the low back now. Let your belly hang down toward the floor, low back goes into lumbar extension, and widen your sit bones, and then tuck your tailbone. Squeeze your sit bones together, push into the low back, into rounding, as long as there's no pain. And then back down. roll onto your back. Go to the side, use good spine hygiene to roll onto your back. Keep it good and stable. And then just feel, as you come onto your back, how balanced do your two hips feel? How does it feel at the rib cage and up at the shoulders? Check that internal rotation of the shoulder again by taking your hands and sliding it underneath your low back. And just see how well does the shoulder blade and arm bone do that rotation. Is there tightness? If you can get your hands into that position, now can you press your arms into the floor so that, or the hand really into the floor, as if you were gonna like lift your hips like this, or you're not gonna move, it's kind of an isometric, but I want you to gently press the hands into the floor and then release. Now if there's pain, then don't do it. If it's just enough to be right here, breathe. But if you can add a little bit of pressure, your shoulder blades are being pretty held by the floor. The arm bone can rotate internally, and you can add some activation of the subscap, and then release. Gently press hands into the floor, or even fingers into the floor, pushing down, and then release. Press, release. And checking with your body, does that feel okay to you? It would be the same move as this, where both sides pressing like that to get that action to happen. Good. Arms out to the side. Go into the deepest muscles in your hips. Let your knees drop out into a frog. And then bring them back together so they touch. Do that 10 times. Adductors lengthening. Deep 6. Deepest muscles in your hips. Rotating. Your pelvis is being pretty much held stable by the floor. Spine stable. There may be a slight lumbopelvic rhythm as you have slight increase in the low back arch and a slight flattening, but not too much movement anywhere else. Right leg out straight on the floor. From the thigh bone down to the heel, make that a pretty straight line, and then make that leg active. So foot held back, and first just point and flex your foot 10 times. So see if you can take that foot all the way into a point, curl your toes, find the arch, find your calf up into the hamstring, maybe even the glute a little bit. And then pull your toes back, spread them wide, ankle movement. All the way forward, all the way back. That's 2, get to 10. Do it nice and slowly. Really feel the muscles slide through the retinaculum. You have a tendinous sheath around that ankle that keeps the tendons on the backside of the ankle bone, but it also sometimes makes it hard for those muscles to slide through. Forward and back. And then when you've done 10, keep that leg really flexed. Tighten up your thigh, so engage the muscles around your knee. And then lift your left leg up off the floor. Start with external external rotation of the ankle. So imagine that there's a stick going from your knee into your hip, and it stays there, and then you're rotating that ankle around that, bringing it all the way in, and the leg bone turning out as far as you can make it go, and then pull on that ankle a little bit more. Find those muscles around your hip that turn the leg out. And then back to neutral, and find the muscles around your hip that turn the leg in. Internal rotation at that hip. Ankle going wide without any other movement happening at your trunk. So spine stays stable. We're finding those muscles that internally rotate your hip, and then go back to external rotation at your hip. Stable trunk, all the way in, back to neutral, all the way out. One more. And in. Ankle wide. Awesome. Now bring that right leg up, hook the left leg around it, pull it up into a hip lift. Pull your toes back. 1 minute hold. Pull your right knee towards you. Push your left knee away from you. Find that external rotation. Let your shoulders relax completely. If you have a little bit of a hip disparity, one side of your pelvis rotating a little forward or backward, or one side that elevates, this might take some of that hip disparity out. So find the hip flexor on the right, pull towards you, push with the glute and hamstring on the left. And release. Left leg out on the floor. Start with pointed flexes. Right leg just bent, 10 point and flexes all the way into a point. Find the muscles across the arch of your toes, and then the longitudinal arches on the inside and the outside of your foot. Let that activate. Move the arch of the foot toward you as your toes curl down around it, and then flex the foot back, spread your toes wide. All the way down, point. Flex. Keep going, get 10 in. And then keep that leg out there, pull your toes back, bring the right hip up into that 90-degree angle. Take the knee out and the ankle in, coming across, with again that rod moving from the knee into the hip. So moving around that, and just see how's this side different from the other side. Lots of us have been athletes where we planted one foot and kicked with another, or moved another more often. So you may notice that one leg has more rotational range and the other is more stable. Take it out and in. Go all the way out, hold it, and then try and stress those tissues just a little bit more. Find those muscles. Where are they that rotate that hip? And
external femur rotation, internal femur rotation. And then bring the left leg up, hook the right leg over. Push that knee wide and breathe. 1 minute, hold. Find that left hip flexor, pull towards you. Find the glute and the hamstring on the right leg. Push the knee away from you, opening up that hip. Stay heavy on your sacrum. As your legs are up here, you may feel that your back got flatter. That's okay. That's going to talk all the way up into your upper back a little, just the difference of your pelvic position there. Relax your shoulders. Relax your neck. Relax your jaw. Awesome. Release. Okay. Let's go left leg out again, right leg in. This time I want you to just feel your own hip socket a little bit. So you can hold your right leg up and just do a bit of a circle and see if you can kind of scour your own hip socket. And if you notice, like, ooh, when I go to the inside, there's a little pinching, that's information for you about your labrum or where your leg bone hits the hip socket. So just notice where that is. Can you bring the knee closer in toward the armpit as you go wider? What's the shape of your hip socket? Take it out. Can you keep the left hip down and take that right hip pretty far out to the side, or does it really start to rotate your pelvis? How much abdominal stiffness can you add to keep that in really good alignment? And see if you can keep that leg going into that circle. Out and around. And then take your leg all the way up. Point your toes. We'll borrow from Pilates a little bit here. I want about a foot diameter circle, 10 circles, drawing on the ceiling with your pointed toe, thigh tight, knee flexed, or knee engaged. Strong, stable core. When you've done 10, reverse the direction. And release. Awesome. Second side. Explore your hip. So, how well does your knee come across your body? Does it have a lot of room, or is it stiffer on the outside as it moves into that space? Do you have pinching at all on the inside? Do you have bigger range as your knee comes up to the outside? Some people have big range this way, like they can come toward the opposite shoulder, but when they try to go to the outside, where I have a lot more range, they don't. So it's different for everybody's body. Feel what's going on for you. And can you do that kind of hip circle, keeping some stiffness in your abdominal wall so that the hip moves without pulling your whole pelvis around? And then go ahead and take that leg all the way up to straight. Point your toes, tighten around your knee. Feel like the muscles are hugging to the bone from all directions. And then 10 circles. Switch. now leg bone's stable, close kinetic chain because our feet are on the ground. Move your pelvis back and forth, pelvic tilt. Flatten your low back, arch your low back. And then roll onto your belly. We've done a lot of hip flexion work. Now let's go into hip extension a little bit. First, bend the right knee and feel what happens at your pelvis. So in an ideal world, your quad would lengthen, your pelvis would stay fairly stable, maybe a tiny bit of an arch as you bring your leg up, and you'd be able to get your heel all the way to your butt. If any of those things don't happen, there's too much tightness in quads or hip flexors that start to manipulate what's going on between your pelvis and your spine. So feel what do you need to do in your body? Do you need to stretch your thigh? Do you need to add abdominal stiffness so that quad can lengthen and it doesn't just pull your pelvis into a new position? Feel what has to happen for you. Just explore that. And then if you were someone who had way bigger range with that knee a little wider, is that also true this way? So explore your hip a bit. You can lift the leg straight up to the ceiling, see how your hip extension is. And did your hip bone just dig right down into the floor? Or can you keep your pelvis, use the floor to keep your pelvis stable and take the leg behind you so that the butt muscle pulls the leg up? And how about if you rotate that leg a little bit out to the side, do you have bigger range? So glutes activate again, external rotation and hip extension. So for some of us, that's going to be easier to find that glute. So just move your leg around a little bit. See if you can explore finding that. Where does it move? And then release and switch sides. Check out the other side, curl it up. Could be totally different on one side to the other. And if you had low back issues or SI joint issues, might be because the hip moves really differently. Curl it up, let it go down, feel what's happening right here at the level of your pelvis in your low back. Shouldn't be a whole lot of movement as you get that heel toward your butt. Okay, and then lift the leg, knee off the floor, and just explore that. Can you do that with the butt muscle, not the hamstring? Or the hamstring helps a little as an assistant, but it's not the main thing. If your knee goes out to the side, can you lift it up higher? How does this hip feel in relation to the other one? Good, take both knees out, put the bottom of your feet together. Press the bottom of your feet together and feel your butt muscles or your deep muscles in your pelvis. The deep six could activate here as well. Do that a few times. Press and then release. How different does it feel between the two sides? Go ahead and find your glutes by lifting your knees just slightly off the floor. Find those butt muscles on both sides. Lift and lower. Do 10 of those lifts. Lift and lower. and release. Alright, press up onto your hands and knees. Let's go onto our side and grab our block. You're gonna put one hip on the block. And then this hopefully works for most of you. This is loading this shoulder, but because we're using a block, it shouldn't be too much load. We can just introduce a bit of load on that shoulder. Is that okay for you?
This shoulder.
Yeah, sort of.
Go to the other side and also do so well.
Okay,
Make it up.
yours can handle it? Ish. Okay. All right, hold that there. Take that top leg up and bring it down 10 times. Can it come out away from your body anymore? If it can't, listen to your body. Don't force it. Yeah. Good. Okay. For those that are feeling all right with this, pull this leg forward, keep this bottom one off the floor, and just see if you can find that position in your hip. And then send that leg back out. Good. So spine stability, hip mobility. And if you're feeling really advanced today, can you lift that up off the floor, hip up off the floor? I have my bottom leg down on the floor. You can also really try to go off, but that's a lot of load on that shoulder. Switch sides. Block underneath your hip. Come to this side position. Stable spine, table, pelvis. Hold and lift. 10 lifts. Lift and lower. You can feel the muscles around the shoulder and the muscles around your back stabilizing in that shoulder. Spine stability, hip mobility, try to bring that leg up, put the foot on the floor, and then pull it back. This time, keep it up there. If you want, you could set that bottom foot on the ground, lift the hip off the block, use that underside of your muscles to hold, or even hold that leg out. And release. Cats and dogs, one more time. Round and arch. Place your elbows where your hands just were. Take your forearms and rotate them away, and then move your hips back. Let your head go. Feel the muscles in your upper back work. Feel the pelvis be as even as possible. Feel the muscles up and around your shoulder blades and your upper back work. Your hands could be in the golfer's grip if you wanted, or in a fist. Keep pulling your forearms away from each other. And release. Come down onto your side one more time. Pull your knees past 90 degrees. That's going to help your spine be able to twist more easily. Feel your own body, listen, move carefully. Let the vertebrae move and twist. You can squeeze your fist and open your fingers to get that fascial connection all the way from the arm into the shoulder, and allow your body to twist open. If you get to a place that is stopping you, ask, what's stopping me? Is it bone grinding on bone? Don't push through that. Is it just muscle that needs a little bit of an adjustment to shift or change? Untwist. Roll to the other side. Pull your knees again past 90 degrees at your hips. That's a little bit of flexion at the low back will help the upper back open all the way up. Increase your thoracic mobility. And then listen to your body wherever you're at. You may have done a sport when you were younger that had you rotating to one side differently than the other, or being really one hand dominant could have changed the way that your spine aligns, and therefore how well you twist to one side or the other. Just notice the difference. See if we can move toward more symmetry, more balance. That way the discs can sit in the middle of our spine instead of off to one side. Untwist. Back to your hands and knees. If it feels okay to you today, tuck your toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog pose. Connect that all the way. Knees can stay bent or legs can move towards straight. You could also do this at the wall where your hands are on the wall and you're just coming down if the load doesn't feel okay in your shoulders. See if you can get your low back all the way to an arch and let the belly kind of pull up and in, but still take full deep breaths at the level of the rib cage. And then walk your feet to your hands all the way to standing.
Okay. Up onto your toes 10 times. I'm gonna have you go ahead and go into a form of a dancer pose today. So reach back, grab your foot. Now, however your balance is, you can find the place where your hip has a little more movement. So that might be the knee slightly out to the side. Let the hip go back behind you. As the hip goes back behind you, there's gonna be a little bit more arch in your back. Find the place where all of that can be strong and stable from the front, but also allow that extension to gently happen. And if it just feels like a quad stretch is enough, that's great. And if your quad is really tight and you want to tuck your tailbone more and just work on the quad, you can do that. If it feels okay to take it a little bit more into a fuller expression, then let it go back. You can take both hands back and let both shoulders open. Find what's right in your body as you just gently allow your body to take a shape. Finding that balance, any version of this that feels okay to you. And then switch. Second side. What are you paying attention to? How do you be present to where your body actually can make this type of a shape? So quad stretch maybe just fine. Balancing, tucking your tailbone, opening that up. If you have sore or degenerative hips at all, this always makes it feel better, or very often, we won't say always, very often makes it feel better to just do a quad stretch and let it open up some space. If you want to take a more full expression, find any version of that. Balance on one foot, all the stabilizing that has to happen through the spine, through the shoulders. Where your hip can move. Is that knee more in or more out? How does that move into your back? And gently come out of it. Find a forward fold.
Coming all the way over. Knees can be bent. Feel where your hips can move. If it feels okay to you to work more toward a straight leg and tighten up the muscles around the knee, great. If that feels like no way, and as soon as you do that, you're way up here again, then go back to your knee bend. Feel where you are today. And then just lift your head, pull on those nerves one more time, that communication system from your neck all the way to the base of your heel. Let your head go down. Come up again, lengthen your whole spine. Big full breath. And one more forward fold. You can just cross your elbows. And hands to your hips. Find your butt muscles. Push your hips through.
Awesome. Interlace your fingers, flip your hands over, overhead extension. You can kind of screw your feet into the ground, get really stable that way. Then as you go up, find the gentle curves and maintain them in your back. Then pull your arms back. Shoulder blades coming out by the armpits a bit. Head back over your shoulders, look up. See if you can relax your belly. Rely on the spinal muscles to hold you stable, and your psoas, the muscle that goes from your low back across to the front of your hip, let that be a stabilizer, as well as a hip flexor. Up on your toes. Woo. Find the stability all the way at the ankle, deep calf muscles, and release. Release your arms. Awesome. Feel how that feels? That was a lot of good core stabilization today, a lot of hip and shoulder mobility. All right, find your lying down or seated position for meditation.
wherever you are. Take notice of your physical body on the floor. Give attention to your breath. Feel the breath move through the space. And then in this effort, not of controlling our mind, but simply paying attention to whatever's arising in our mind, in our body at this moment. How do we give our attention to just what is right here? There's an aspect of our being that is always calm. And when we cultivate this state of meditation, we can have access to this part of ourselves and watch whatever's arising on top of it. So I'll give you the next minute of complete silence. To experience the calm and then whatever's arising on top. If there's any bit of chaos or aspects, thoughts that are arising, where are they coming from? How do we observe our internal state? And then how do we shift into high vibrations in our own being? Love, kindness, gratitude. Simply a little bit of gratitude for where our body has carried us. And if there's forgiveness that needs to happen in your own body, you can also bring some of that in there. Thank you for taking me on all those adventures. Sorry I crashed off the cliff.
thank you so much for being here today and being part of this community and working on your body, and feeling better. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kyra.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyra.